dominated, it's different, other thing, dominated by artificial intelligence, which inevitably identifies its own and articulate logics of symbolic appropriation of power. Now we have to, in front of us, stay artificial intelligence as a form of domination and, in my point of view, a particular form of power. The advent of AI, in fact, generated a series of new challenges. Among these, the possibility emerges that AI shows a behavior of power-seeking, a characteristic traditionally associated with human beings. Because in our world, perhaps AI can show, he is not aware, is not conscious. People that before me explain very well, better than me, this point of view, but can show maybe if they're not aware, is not conscious, is not self-conscious, can show some power-seeking. Not intentionally power-seeking, but a form of domination created by us over us. Limited to artificial intelligence, power-seeking is a behavior that is often defined through the alignment of artificial intelligence and refers to the situation in which advanced AI systems evolve by maximizing control over the surrounding environment. What is power? Power-seeking for an artificial intelligence is to manipulate the environment that we stay in the middle. The attitude which can be seen in the progressive improvement of artificial intelligence in relation to their constant enhancement raises inescapable questions about the future of interaction with the human species. What does it mean? What are the potential risks of power-seeking in the context of AI? How are new technologies constituted with respect to power-seeking in the classical sense? What are the mitigation actions that can be deployed in order to avoid completely uncontrollable drifts? We aim to investigate the issues raised and to draw a parallel between the typical human aspiration to power and AI. We will delve into the psychological and sociological basis of this behavior in humans and compare them with the design and programming factors that could generate similar attitudes in AI. We will also discuss the possible social impact related to the transformation of industrial production and the potential risks posed by uncontrollable AI. Power-seeking in human. What is power-seeking for human? It's a complex phenomenon that conditioned the human evolution from the fields of psychology and sociology to political and philosophical science, literature and organizational studies. There has always been an attempt to understand the motivation behind this behavior and its impact on individuals and societies. It's obviously a complex phenomenon that can be defined as the desire to influence one's fellow human beings and control the surrounding environment. Power is the potential to influence others, to lead others in a way or in another way, and is a motivation to act. Many people want to act to have more power for leading other people. And history is marked sometimes for this power seeking. From a sociological point of view, power-seeking behavior is often seen as a product of social structures and cultural laws. The hierarchies and dynamics associated with it can incentivize individuals to seek a dominant position, while the values and conceptual paradigms of reference can shape the perception of power and influence the ways in which individuals pursue it. For example, in society that value competition and individual achievement, such behavior may be more widespread and considered socially acceptable. In a social competition, power-seeking is the energy that puts yourself in a dominant position without respect to someone else. In general, dominant models can significantly influence the ways in which power is sought, recognized, and exercised. The problem of alignment between artificial intelligence and power-seeking. The concept of alignment of artificial intelligence and power-seeking of artificial intelligence are not new, but they have gained significant attention in recent months due to the rapid progress of the technological that is implementing, thanks also to the so-called large language models, such as ChatGPT, social changes with outcomes still largely unforeseen in past decades. The destiny of AI is to change our life. We can like or dislike this attitude, but it's evident it's a destiny. We can do nothing. The technological progress go despite our position, our mind position, or our desire. We can do for this respect, we can do nothing. The problem of alignment has especially been a focal point in artificial intelligence research since its beginning. And it refers to the process that will have the task of ensuring that artificial intelligence systems act exclusively for the benefit of the humans, without entailing unnecessary risks. We have to assure, anyway, that artificial intelligence act for our benefit. That is the real problem. How we can assure that AI don't develop a way that put the humanity in the risk to extinction. Not because I don't mind at the Skynet of the Terminator. I don't think that an AI aware self-consciousness. I think that simply is a blind mechanism that goes against humanity. I hope that we can avoid this path, this doomsday path, apocalyptic path. The intersection between power-seeking and alignment is a complex topic that has been extensively covered in Carl Smith's Existential Risk from Power-Seeking AI, in which the author argues the advanced AI system, if not properly aligned, could manifest a power-seeking behavior that virtually entails significant risk, since a misaligned AI system, by definition, will be able to use its capabilities to accumulate resources and power at the expense at the expense of all humanity. Now, power-seeking in human and AI. Power, in its most elementary form, can be defined as an asymmetric relationship between individuals and groups that results in the ability of influence others or to achieve desired results. In human societies, power often derives from a range of sources, including, but not limited to, physical strength, knowledge, social status, and wealth. Theories of power, such as those proposed by French and Raven, further classify this source into 5 forms. These 5 forms seems to me really coherent with power seeking in artificial intelligence. And that's reward, power or reward, coercive power, referent power, and expert power. In the context of AI, power-seeking behavior can be understood as the influence of AI on its reference environment and the resulting outcomes. This can manifest itself in various ways, depending on the project, skills, and tasks that it is called upon to perform. For example, software designed to make strategic decisions in the business world tends to try to optimize its algorithms to obtain the maximum possible profit by drawing a parallel between human behavior and the power-seeking behavior of AI. Interesting analogies emerge. So, we can compare it now. What is legitimate for human? What is legitimate for AI? Legitimate power. In human beings, this power derives from the type of legitimacy authority. In AI, can be considered as the authority given to the system by its developers, of users, in view of some decision-making process. If you stay in Houston, as me, you have no idea of the map of the city, you take a map, electronic map with an AI, and you tell at AI, bring me to my hotel. That's, for me, in that moment, in front of my ignorance of the map of the Houston, is there an authority AI? For preserving myself, I put confidence in this AI, and I follow in a blind way. Maybe if AI take me in a bad part of Houston, because it's a problem in the machine. Reward power. It is a type of power that in humans coincides with the promise of refusal of a reward. In the case of AI, it could be the ability of the software to provide or deny benefits based on user actions, as in the case of those algorithms that influence the behavior of the human subject by directing them towards specific contents. We can look at that when you use some platform as TikTok. It's full of contents generated by the AI that produce psychological rewards, in particular versus our children. They are more exposed than us to AI. Coercive power. This is the power that consists in the ability to punish or sanction. Although AI does not typically have this type of power for nowadays, it's possible to imagine a scenario in which such a system exercises its influence on the user, denying service or functionalities if the condition it sets are not met. Referential power. It is the power that derives from being admired or respected. In the case of AI, this will be substantiated by the trust that users place in the software used, thanks to its proven reliability, precision, and effectiveness. For example, if I ignore Chinese, I can put my speech in the AI and send to a Chinese man. But I have no control. It's just, I just trust in AI. It's dangerous to have no control what the AI does. I use AI when I translate my speech, but I understand what AI say in English. I talk about English, but I understand when I read. And it's really important. There is a difference, a capital difference, a most important, a really important difference. Expert power is the power that comes from knowledge, i.e. systems particularly designed for specific tasks. Thanks to the advanced algorithms and the ability to process and analyze data with higher levels of performance that the human brain represent and exemplary case. So, social implication and possible remedy. From the point of view of political and social structure, however, it seems quite clear that AI is destined to convey profound social transformations, which concern the replacement of the human operator with software capable of performing the same operations in much shorter time. Consider, for example, the case of translations. My case. A radical transformation of this kind of professional service is already evident due to the progressive improvement of programs that, also thanks to the contribution of AI, can provide texts that are increasingly accurate and faithful to the original. As far as power seeking is concerned, however, the question obviously becomes more complex, since the exercise of power and its achievement depend on complex interaction connected with human life, in general, and with the various social structures that flourish incessantly over the century. The physician Tegmark provocatively imagined a supercomputer named Prometheus, evocative name, that frees itself from human conditioning and takes control of the entire world. Such intellectual provocation requires an actuated reflection of human freedom and on its possible limitation by new technologies and AI. The problem of freedom and control is now our problem, and the AI implement control at every level of our normal life. Normally, we are used to speak about two different kinds of freedom: negative freedom and positive freedom, according to a classic Berlin. Isaiah Berlin told us, I don't want to remake the same things of Berlin, is more important than me. But the problem is that what is negative freedom? Is a space where we are free to choice. But what happens? In traditional theory of negative freedom, we are free, but we are not controlled. What about our freedom if we are sure to be controlled? In other terms, if we are potential always traceable, makes the very meaning of what we identify with the concept of freedom problematic. It is one thing to avoid performing a certain action because it is believed to be wrong for reasons that can be of various kinds: ethical, moral, utilitarian, aesthetic, political, and that mature in the mind of each one for the most varied reasons. I avoid to act in some way because I judge this way wrong, for my moral conviction, for my ethic point of view. But it's different when another thing is maybe to refrain from it for fear of being monitored and consequentially suffer the punishment that derives from it with certainty. If I've controlled by an AI, maybe I lost my moral position because I act just to be feared, to be punished. because I control it every time, everywhere. In the first case, we are in fact in the presence of an authentically free choice. In the second, it seems very difficult to speak of freedom in the proper sense, since the decision depends on a coercive power that imposes a certainly consequent punishment. And we have also the argument, the field, the topic of cognitive freedom. Another piece of the conceptual mosaic we are trying to compose also concerns the issue of thought, cognitive functions, and control of information based on which we orient our choices. It is one thing to form opinion and obtain information by actively seeking out the places where they are produced, rummaging through the many passive deposits of knowledge, such as libraries and newspapers. It is another to be continually fed by a software that we do not control and that performs these tasks for us. It will inevitably select based on criteria unknown to the user, which and how much information to provide on subject. Will present ready-made ideas and opinion, choosing a priori defined cognitive path, and all this will reduce, quite unconsciously, our freedom of thought and opinion. Finally, by entrusting many of our cognitive functions to AI, we will dramatically increase its power by creating a mechanism of substantial and complete subjection to a machine that will tend to become a vital and essential function for our existence. Okay, I quickly come to the end of my speech. So, positive freedom, what is positive freedom? The freedom to choose who lead a society. But if who leads a society takes a machine that knows everything because it has access at the all knowledge in the world, all language of knowledge, who are able to struggle against this machine, to say no? People want difference. The end. The struggle for our humanity is beyond and behind the AI. It's cultural. If we are the creators of AI, we have the people that perform AI. AI feed itself from our language, from our thought. If we have to replace man in the center of the cosmos, of our interest, we have to struggle. If we want to survive, if we want to lead the AI, we have to abandon, in my opinion, my point of view, every non-anthropocentric theory, every non-anthropocentric point of view, because if an AI feed itself from a non-anthropocentric point of view, what happens? What happens to us? An AI have to choose if to kill a rabbit or a human, for example, in a car. If that AI is fed by a non-anthropocentric terrorist, what happens? Are we ready to accept that AI sacrifice a child to serve rabbits? Because the rabbits are, for example, because the rabbits are in peril of extinctions and human not, for example. So the struggle, for me, is cultural. It's beyond and behind. That's just, I finished. That's the image of Leonardo da Vinci that translates Pico della Mirandola, that in the Italian Renaissance put the human in the center of universe. I'm not Ptolemaic. for me, is a spiritual center that human must to occupy. That's all. Thank you for your attention, and forgive me for my English.
Okay, thank you very much. So we now have about 17 minutes for questioning. So I'll take the questions in pairs. So raise your hand and I will acknowledge you. So 1, do we have a 2? Okay, down here. Okay, so 1, then 2. Go ahead.
All right, well, I think it's turned on this time. So Dr. Bellini, thank you again for the presentation and for making the trip here to be with us today. Before lunch, we heard Dr. England assert that all artificial intelligence is human intelligence, and that AI, as we know it, at least today, is essentially in some form parroting or puppeting back that human intelligence to us. When you talk about the dangers of power-seeking AI, and specifically when you talk about the concept of AI possessing or having the potential to possess coercive power, are you distinguishing or making a distinction between the AI itself as a, if you will, its own entity, or is that within the context of the fact that that AI has been taught and trained according to some model, according to some algorithm? And I can give you a concrete example. In China, there's a concept of social credit, where how you operate online in social media and elsewhere, you either improve your standing with the Chinese Communist Party, or you decrease your standing based off of the things that you say, the comments that you make. But ultimately, that's not the AI that is assigning your credit. That's the policy of the party of humans. So could you comment on the distinction between whether it's the AI itself that wields that power, or is the AI just a tool through which others wield that power?
So, in my opinion, AI is an extension of our mind. So, depends on our mind in a cultural sense. We have to reflect if we want to understand AI and what the devices will do in the future. We have to ask to ourselves which is our identity, what we put inside the AI, what we want to put inside that. Because if we takes a nihilistic derives, we can imagine a nihilistic machine as our extension if our mind is nihilistic. But our mind is rooted in values, and we teach the AI as that values, maybe we can limit the, we can work on the alignment in a coherent sense with our purpose, that is to survive as a species and as culture. I can imagine another culture, another AI, because we cannot imagine the same AI for everyone, for every culture. I mean that a Chinese AI will develop different paths than a Western AI. I can imagine, I'm not sure, it's a supposition.
Thank you, Dr. Bellini. I wanted to question the idea that simply making man the center, restoring human centrality, is the answer to the power seeking of AI? I'm assuming, it seemed you were saying power seeking for AI is bad. But it seems like unless the good that AI is seeking for man is very carefully defined, if AI is trying to do what's good for people, AI might say, the best thing I can do for people is to control them to make sure this good thing happens. In other words, it seems like if we try and write human centrality in the wrong way, it will make AI seek power so it can take care of us.
Okay.
And that like the important thing, the key thing isn't the centrality, but knowing what's actually good for man, that like includes freedom and stuff, and then somehow getting that into the AI.
Yes, it's not easy to answer. I try to do. The problem is that just is a suggestion, is a methodology, is not a complete answer. Just to suggest, to start to change our some mainstream way to view the world. Because AI feed of the mainstream view. If you answer to AI something, the answer, if you ask, the answer is based on mainstream way. If we put on the mainstream way an incorrect methodology, we risk to a misalignment, a total misalignment from AI to the human. Obviously, AI as an extension of us, it implicated on power seeking. Our task is to take the control in the hybridization between human and AI at the psychological level. We need to take the control. But for taking control, we need to feed our brain. If we abandon ourselves to AI, if we finish to use our brain for study, for resolving problems, we sooner or later we became a slave creature of a blind machine. When I see at my students that resolve the problem with the AI, I say, pay attention, study, learn how to resolve the problem, and then use AI, not before. When I see a student that use, I don't know if my colleague here, but in my university is a plague to. Is a sort of pestilence. When I see the student, I perceive that the thesis, the memory, the finish of the degree, is not written by him, is written by the AI. I cannot demonstrate, but I know, because the language is too perfect, is too mainstream. There is no creativity. There is no pain, there is no emotional. That's the risk, the real risk. It's inside us. And also what we teach our children about that. Do the AI to do everything or be able to do by yourself and then use AI. I don't know if I answered. I hope.
Okay, so another two. We have one here. Another one. Okay. So one and then two. Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you so much for your thoughts on this. Two pieces of writing came to mind when you were talking about the power-seeking of AI. First, the Tesseract Bundle, written by Timnit Gebru, a former ethical artificial intelligence researcher for Google. And this paper proposes the idea that artificial intelligence is being used as a tool for eugenics and other potentially harmful ideologies for humanity. And then the book Empire of AI by Karen Howe, which deeply investigates Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI. And it really delves into his life and the ideologies behind why he founded OpenAI. With that in mind, how can we as AI users delve into or kind of investigate for ourselves the minds behind these power-seeking artificial intelligence tools? Because there are a lot of philosophies and ideologies from the people who are creating these tools. And for people who've read Dune, something that also came to mind was the Butlerian Jihad and how people turned over their minds to be enslaved by the men who held artificial intelligence tools. So just with that in mind, how can we explore the minds behind the people, behind the tools that are being created?
I don't know if I have good understood your question. Okay. But can I have a summary? Just the final ask.
How can we, as users of AI,
please.
Oh, okay. How can we, as users of AI, explore the minds behind the creators of these artificial intelligence tools?
That's AI stand in front of us. We put in the AI our mentality, our mind, so AI reflect what we are, so it can useful to understand also the human mind, the human identity, and the human soul. And AI is like a mirror where we can reflect ourselves. If we are demon, AI reflect a demon. If we are angels, the AI reflect an angels. So it can really useless to understand our psychology, our mentality, our way to understand the world also. I don't know.
Hello, Dr. Bellini, thank you very much for your presentation. My name is Eric Botts. I'm a professor here in the global cybersecurity, and I teach an AI course. And when I developed the course, I was very reluctant to call it AI. I really wanted to call it machine-enhanced human intelligence. We had a couple of speakers also talk about the human nature of the data that comprised AI. There was a lot of talk about the alignment problem, and I understand that. But I'd like to ask you to speak on what I call the deployment problem. Much of what we talk about with alignment is working from a theoretical point of view or even in a virtual environment. But while we're doing this, companies, governments, and I want to focus particularly on the military, are deploying AI at a decision-making level. So I'd like you to speak to what you think are some of the issues or problems with that.
I want to be realist. In the struggle in the competition, but it's war, from at the global level. Deploying AI for gain the war is unavoidable. If you want to survive in this world, you have to deploy. If a political system wants to survive, has to deploy the AI in every field, in particular in the military field and in the defense field, if they, in the industrial field also, if a government does not the struggle, the competition with other political systems, for example, the competition with China system or Russian system, is lost. In Europe now, we are argue, we talk too much, we act really, we don't act. But now I hope that we act in the competition for new technologies, and particularly on the field of AI. If we don't, we can just hope in your generosity. We have no choice. And that's what I mean.
Okay, so we'll do one last question in the back here.
Thank you very much. What is exactly the fear here? I don't understand why we are not diving in. Artificial intelligence is such an extraordinary advancement for humanity. I don't understand how I was able to live without it. English is obviously my second language. It was a pain to learn it. AI can teach you faster. So just because we have a horse, we shouldn't use the car? Why are we not, all of us, educating to the top with artificial intelligence? What I see is resistance, fear. What is the fear about? What is exactly the fear? What can happen? Because this technology is already out. Everyone is using it, so, it's not so easy to limit it. And I don't think that does the new generation any favor to put them out of the time. We need to live the time that we are in. So students should learn with AI, improve AI, not resist it, not fear. I think that is not progress, in my opinion. So when you say that AI should be anthropocentric, what is the fear? What is the worst case scenario? Thank you very much.
The fear is to put, in my point of view, is to put inside the eye some concept, some ideas, some way to understand reality that can damage the humanity. The fear for me is that we put inside the AI a nihilistic vision based on reject of our tradition, our identity, and our better values. The fear is to create an AI that is beyond evil and good. The fear for me is to create a machine that reflects some new, in my opinion, stranger theory on the role of human in this planet. And that's the fear for me. Not the AI in itself, because it's a machine, as a car. But it's not a learning machine. A car is not a learning machine. An AI is a learning machine, is a learning model machine that interacts with the world without control. In this moment, the AI works in every part of our life without our control, and works based on which we put inside as program. If the creator is nihilistic, the AI will be nihilistic as the creator. And that with AI we discover ourselves, and we have to preserve the better part of our humanity. Or we can risk to become, as I don't know if you have look at if you look the movie The Purge. The Purge. The risk is the purge, for me.
Thank you very much. Let's give a clap. So we'll have a brief break, but please come back for the next session that's starting at 3:30.